Blog Talk Radio.
To the 411 Mania Music Zone Album Review Podcast. Say that 3 times fast. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And boy, oh man, Shevitz, do we have an album for you to listen to that we're going to review tonight. I have been excited about this since March 19th, and probably even before that. Tonight, on the 411 Album Review Podcast, we will break down every single track from the greatest band nobody's ever heard of, from Baltimore, Maryland, Clutch, their 10th studio album, Earth Rocker. And here's an Earth Rocker from which I can't do this podcast without. He is the Metal Coop, as he's known on Twitter, Mr. Robert Cooper, the Metal Hammer of Doom. How are you?
Not too bad, but actually, I have something to comment on the greatest band that no one has ever known. There's a falsehood. They actually did pretty damn well in the Billboard charts. All things considered.
Number one. No,
they
were number one on the hard rock. Yeah, I got it right in front of me. They got top hard rock album number 1. They went 15 on the Billboard 200, and top rock albums they were number 6.
Yeah, 15 is not something to shake your head at. That is really good.
Well, please allow me to adjust my pants.
Yeah. Well, you have to do it. I'm not going to do it for you.
Touche, sir. All right, let's dispense with all this silliness. As I said, this is the 10th studio album of Baltimore, Maryland's own stoner rock, hard rock band, Clutch. They are one of my favorite bands of all time, and I was very excited when I heard that there was a new album coming out. So it's going to be great fun sharing it with all of you tonight. Just a little something about this album, and I want to, before we start breaking down track by track, I want to get Robert's opinion on this. Just doing a little bit of research about this album. They before they went into the studio to record it, they actually had all the songs plotted out, and they were able to kind of go in with a plan of what they were doing as opposed to just showing up to the studio and jamming and seeing what came out of it. That said, this felt like a tighter album than some of their previous efforts. I would tell you that, almost every album, especially since Jam Room, I've said this is their best album yet, with the exception of Strange Cousins from the West, which I thought was a fine. It was the WrestleMania of Clutch albums. It was okay, but it was nothing special.
Oh, WrestleMania.
I stitch it all together. But no, this feels like a culmination of all their recent albums. Now, we just did the retrospective of Clutch 2 weeks ago. Having heard a lot of Clutch in a very condensed period of time, what was your overall impression of Earth Rocker vis-a-vis this being sort of the zenith of all their most recent efforts?
I'd say that was definitely a good summation. It was quite, I'd say it's fair to be a zenith, kind of like the culmination of their past work. Because, yes, I did listen to almost at least half of Clutch's work in like 2 days because I badly a procrastinator. But this album, in my opinion, really kind of put everything in a nice ball, and it was fun to consume. Like you had some nice little stonery bits. You had some stuff that would have worked well on the Caius album, Red Fang album, something like that. Then you also had a few things that actually surprised me. Like we managed to get like a really bluesy, just cold, like blues song, a bluesy blues song. It was awesome. I mean, I dug it. It was one of my favorites. It had so much emotion to it, and I didn't really see it coming. And I think that's really neat because, you know, I guess Clutch, you come from the party, stay for the substance.
Yes, this song is full of both this album is full of both steak and sizzle. And I think that if I had to sum up Clutch in one sentence with a lot of cliche in it, that would be how I would put it. It's both steak and sizzle. There's a lot of substance to their music. Neil Fallon was actually asked recently on Loudwire regarding his lyrics, you know, that they're very imaginative, but does he ever come up with stuff that's just totally out there even for him? And he says, yeah, he definitely has to self-edit. You know? But what's great about this album, and we're going to get right into it in just a moment, is that while a lot of Clutch albums, especially like say Robot Hive Exodus, was kind of out there, it was an awesome kind of out there. You know, we talked about on the retrospective that it played a lot with gospel.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's a lot like that in this album. This album is definitely more accessible. It's more accessible. I think it's a little bit more mainstream. I would say this is probably the most mainstream sounding album since Pure Rock Fury. You could probably throw From Beale Street to Oblivion in there too, but I would tell you that I think if you're gathering up a bunch of straights who don't know anything about music and you threw a lot of Clutch albums on the floor, this would be the one they'd walk away with.
Yeah. I do agree that it is more commercial sounding per se, but at the same time, I don't want to say that because honestly, when you say something sounds commercial, it almost comes off as a slight. Not saying when you say it. When people say something, oh, it's more commercial, that sounds like you're cutting it at the legs. It has enough to appeal everybody. It appeals to masses, appeals to fans. I mean, this was a damn fun album. I came into this album like, okay, it's going to be okay. And then you play DC Sound Attack during one of your MMA podcasts. I'm like, holy fuck balls, I have to listen to this. So, yeah. Oh, I love that. That harmonica.
I would tell you that, and we're going to go right into the title track, first track on the album, as soon as I complete this sentence. This is what a commercial album should sound like. You know, if I'm a record producer, if I'm a music studio executive, or music label executive, and I want to put out an accessible commercial album, this is what I would want to put out. Because as I say about children's entertainment doesn't have to be stupid and dumbed down, and commercial entertainment doesn't have to be vanilla and blah and unimaginative. I think you can put out something that's got a lot of talent to it, a lot of ability, interesting sounding music, without it becoming Mr. Bungle. Well, everyone loves Mr. Bungle and Tomahawk and all of that. You don't necessarily have to go that route. You can put out something that sounds exactly like Earth Rocker, and I don't feel like you're going to scare away the straights. And I wish more people in high-powered positions in music got that point of view, because I think the fear is that they have to put out something that's just blah and unimaginative, because I think that will attract the most people, when historically the things that have hit have been more interesting than anything else. And it's the copycat stuff that the producers say, oh, well, this should make $1 million too, that tends to fall on its face. I'm going to get one last comment from you, Robert, on that little monologue, and then we're going to get into this.
Yeah, I was actually about to comment on that. Yeah, like when I think of it, like you're totally right. Like you don't, if you come in saying I'm going to write a hit, you're not going to write a hit. It's going to be garbage. If you come in saying, okay, I want to write an album, and it just happens to be something that Billy down the street will like, and then you'll like, and then your friends will like, it's got enough of Clutch's, like it's got enough of their aura. It's got that aura of Clutch. That like down home rocker with a little bit of blues and a few other things thrown in. It's got that. But at the same time, it's also got some stuff that you could throw it on the radio and people will be like, okay, I like it. This album reminds me of, where would I put it? Maybe about Euthanasia by Megadeth, which I know some people didn't like that album. But it had enough of their core to where it appealed to, the main, like the fanboys. But then it also had enough mainstream approach. Like, you didn't have gospel in this album. You had some more just straightforward rocker songs. Everybody loves rocker songs. They had stuff like that. Like,
and there was no ribonucleic acid. And there was no ribonucleic acid freak out the prayer. I mean, nothing really jumped out at me as particularly bizarro with the lyrics.
Yeah, and no, they didn't drop the mic or anything.
No.
As Sean Comer expertly.
You can't be careful with that mic on every record.
Yeah, Sean did a damn good job. I applaud you, Sean Comer.
Yes, big shout out to Sean Comer for being careful with that mic on the last movie podcast. All right, so without further ado, here it is, the title track to Clutch's 10th studio album, Earth Rocker. Let's hear it. Come right out of the gate with a pretty Storm and Norman song there, Earth Rocker. I want to share a quote here. Earth Rocker has been described as heavier and faster than preceding albums. Drummer J.P. Gaster revealed that this ferocity may be attributed to Clutch's recent touring experience with Motorhead and Thin Lizzy. As Gaster explained, it was on that tour that we realized there was really a lack of just straight-up rock and roll records coming out these days. So I think we wanted to make something that was front to back, a very focused kind of recording, a very efficient kind of recording, one that had a good energy from beginning to end. Robert, Earth Rocker, is this just the best kind of rock song? I mean, this is a great way to start a pure rock album.
I don't know if I would say it's the best, but that's just saying, coming from jackass metalhead. I think this is the best way to open this album, by far. I mean, it pretty much is just like, okay, I'm going to write on the bow what your present is. Bam. That's what this song is. I mean, I really dug it. And I think what they were aiming for, a really focused, really kind of dynamic, a Here It Is song, that's what that is. That's what this album is. Pretty much you're basically going to get a nice stonery, real in your face, just real headbanging album for the most part. Now, there are some, there's some deviations. I mean, hey, just like Motorhead. Not every Motorhead song is Ace of Spades. Yeah.
There are certain songs and certain albums that were meant to be heard live. They wrote it with the idea of we're going to tour this album to death, and these are going to be songs that are going to be great for people to hear live in concert and dance around and boot scoot around the mosh pit. And I think that's probably the best way to describe Earth Rocker, the song, is it's a great song for a live crowd to listen to.
Oh yeah, it opens up with that kind of, I want to say ambient. It's got a different flavor. It's kind of setting the beat, and just like you just go straight and awesome. Totally agree. Like if I were you, I'm gonna go see Clutch, because I know you're gonna see Clutch. This would be like a song. This would be the song I look forward to. Because I just want to bang my head, throw some elbows. Okay, I don't throw elbows. I'm not the mosh pit type. I know it's weird. The guy who loves him some death metal, and I'm like, I don't want to punch anybody, But yeah, totally.
Jeremy Lambert once said on the Bad Movie Review Club with Sean Comer that he likes movies that tell you what the movie is going to be about in the title. For example, Nude Nuns with Big Guns. That's exactly what that movie was. I'm going to leave that. That is a real movie, yes. We'll watch it on Netflix when we're done with this.
Okay.
Yes, Nude Nuns with Big Guns. But I think the same thing applies to music. I like songs that just tell you what's happening with the song. This is Earth Rocker. It wasn't Earth Rocker and then a bunch of ambient noises and frogs and shit. It was exactly what it was, just a really fast rockin' tune, a great way to start this album.
Oh, yeah, it definitely was. Like, Earth Rocker, like, the album cover pretty much advertises this. It was some Native American dude that looks like he was on some PCP and was just going to rock. All the colors and shit. Yeah, that is this song, this album. I mean, I hate to say one song is like, this is your album, but it's pretty good representation. Just, you start the song, you bang your head, the song's over, you're like, I want more.
And more is what we're going to get. Here's track 2. This is Crucial Velocity. Yeah, for as much as Clutch likes to play around with the blues and write some more groove-oriented music, yeah, you can't get away from the fact that these first 2 songs are some pretty heavy, high-tempo rock and roll.
Oh yeah, that it definitely is. I think that song, honestly, the one thing it had that the first song didn't, it had a snarl to it, just in the vocals. Like, kind of like a crooning snarl, just in the vocals. I did that. Like, first song, this is what you get. Second song, okay, you thought that's what you were going to get. Here's a little bit something different to pique your interest.
It reminds me a lot of I kept going back to Pure Rock Fury with this album, where we talked about this in the retrospective, that with Pure Rock Fury, it felt like they were I don't want to say going out of their way, but it did feel like they were putting some effort into making a more commercially accessible album. They also spent a lot of time writing some pretty heavy songs. I said this about the transition from Transnational Speedway to self-titled. with self-titled, while there's a couple of really fun, fast songs on there, they took the tempo way down. And people love Spacecraft. I'm not knocking it. But still, Clutch over time has tended to write more groove and slower songs than, fast, heavy, aggressive songs. And with this album, they definitely brought that back. Crucial Velocity is, I think, one of the examples of how you can write a really heavy song without it becoming excessive. I love Pantera, as everyone who heard that podcast knows. White Boy Problems, hashtag.
You love half of Pantera.
What was that?
No, I'm just giving you hell.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said you love half of Pantera.
Yeah, I love half of Pantera. But, no, they didn't have to go that route either. You know what I mean? He isn't yelling and screaming. He's still singing, but he's real aggressive about it.
Yeah, he's kind of like that one dog you don't want to mess with. Just to go off of what you were talking about earlier with, this is kind of, I don't want to say it's slow, but it does have a nice groove. Like it's got something like, you just kind of like, something you can just, damn it. Sorry. It's got something you can kind of bob your head to. Not even like headbangers, like, just sit back and just listen, and you just feel like the man. That's what groove metal is to me. Just sit back and feel like the man. But
all right.
Yeah, sorry, rambling. Yeah.
No. I didn't know if you were done.
No, you can go ahead. I was just basically just summing up. That's what that song pretty much does for me. I was just like, okay, got that fast, it's got that heavy that we got in the first song, but it starts sliding in the groove, just a little bit sliding it again.
Yes. Okay, here's Jack Swagger's favorite song off this album. He's, of course, an American. This is Mr. Freedom. Would you not agree that if you were to pinpoint the quintessential Clutch sound, that would be it? That song, I think, incorporates the Clutch sound. I hear that in almost every album.
Now that I think of it, that is kind of true. I mean, I feel like it was almost a progression. Like, they kind of started the first song, which was, this is what you're going to get. I kind of feel like they went a little over what they usually do, like a little faster, a little heavier, just to kind of be like, okay, this is how far we're going to go. And this is almost like a progression, now that I think of it. Like, first song, really kind of heavy, in your face. Second song, heavy, but still groovy. Third song, straight groovy. And yes, that is what I think. If I could, show somebody a Clutch song, okay, here's Mr. Freedom. Now, mine is I'm pretty sure these are politically charged lyrics. You don't write a song, Mr. Freedom, without some politically charged lyrics. But mine is that, it's kind of hard to do, to be like, okay, Mr. Freedom, and then not have something about America or something.
Sure.
Totally.
And that's fine.
I mean, that's totally cool. As long as he's saying it intelligently and not sounding like a complete total dictard, you're good. But I mean, this kind of had that nice thriving beat during the verse, and when you hit the chorus, you got something to bob your head to. I dig it. Wasn't there a solo in this song, or was that the second one? I think it was the second one.
There apparently are a lot of solos throughout this album.
yeah, it kind of surprised me because I don't recall them being one that's really like the solo type.
Well, it's interesting that you mention that because the guitarist in the band actually talked about how in the recording process they Dan Maines actually, I think, was the one that said it, that he actually had to play a lot of solos in this album. Here we go. Sorry, it was Tim Salt. Here's the quote. Tim Salt noting that the approach resulted in additional soloing. I would have never expected to have him playing as many solos on this album, but they definitely had more of a direction than they usually do. It definitely took a lot more concentration, but I walked away from this album liking them more than I have on any other album. And he was talking here again about the fact that they had a lot of the music already planned out before they ever hit the studio. What do you think about that, Robert? As a singer in a band and such, and somebody who's interacted with musicians, do you feel like it hampers or promotes the creative process to work these things out, work songs out before you hit the studio, or to get to the studio and kind of let the jamming take its course?
Now let's see. If you ask me, I feel like it's a little bit of both, but they both have different advantages. Like, let's say me and you are going to start a band. We just walk into the room and be like, okay, let's play something. That's really good, but at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, I want to write a story, and then you just start stream of consciousness writing a story. It's not going to be as cohesive. It's not going to really feel, it might not feel as polished as, let's say, I had a few ideas for a book, and then I start hammering out what I'm thinking of for the ideas, have a little more focus. It might not feel as, what's the word, soulful maybe? It might not feel as though it came off the top of my head, but I think it's a little bit, if you come in, I think it's better to come in with, like, ideas, at least, one or two ideas for something. Hey, I thought of this is really cool, what do you think? I think it's better to do that than just like, okay, sit down. So what do you guys got? That can be good, but at the same time, that can really hamper the creative process. Because if you just sit down and be like, okay, we're going to come up with something, it's going to be kind of strained. It's better if you just kind of do it outside rather than inside. Because outside, like if you do it on the outside of the band, you have different influences, different ideas, different stuff. If you just sit down like, okay, guys, we're going to make an album. You'll get some youthfulness, you'll get some soul, you'll get something new. At the same time, you could just get a retread. You get something mindless. We don't want mindless. Okay, we like mindless. Cannibal Corpse is great, but yeah.
I would also assume it's a lot cheaper to go into a studio, do your business, and then leave, as opposed to go in there and noodle. Do you come up with something?
Yeah. Yeah, and noodling until you come up with something could be, one, a long and two, a tiring process. Because if I just sat down, to write an article and I'm like, okay, what am I going to write? I could sit there for a day and not come up with anything. You could get a pretty bad writer's block. I mean, you could do it too if you are trying to come up with ideas for your album away from this setting. But sometimes if you like sitting on the computer, you're like, okay, still no ideas. You can really screw you over. Honestly, I think it's better that they came to this album with, I think it's better that they came this time wanting more structure, wanting ideas that they've already come up with, having ideas, having songs planned out, because sometimes you can have a plan and then it can flourish. You can do that too, because they sound like a band that has just showed up, played some shit, put it on record, and it's sometimes good to have a change. I like this change.
Absolutely.
Good change.
So, we're talking a lot about how Clutch had somewhat of a return to heaviness on this album, but for those of you who liked Blast Tyrant, From Beale Street to Oblivion, Robot Hive Exodus, for those of you who fell in love with this band because of their adoption of heavy blues, and you heard the first 3 tracks and thought, gee whiz, I hope they haven't abandoned that. Well, slap yourself, because they have. cashing in Money in the Bank the day after WrestleMania of music?
Well, I mean, I wasn't disappointed like everybody who thought he would cash in at WrestleMania. But I'd say
cashed in the next day, and people were just as happy. But I'm trying to tell you, Jesus Christ, you're worse than Jeff Harris, man. You step all over my funny sayings.
Oh, I'm worse than Jeff Harris. Oh, Christ.
Work with me.
Lord.
Be a dance partner. I was in school, and
I couldn't think of anything.
we were at wrestling practice. There was a guy who got the award for hardest to work with. Don't be that guy, man. This is the Dolph Ziggler cashing in the Money in the Bank of music. Just go with it.
I really couldn't think of anything. That's just why I shot on your parade. I'm
Right.
sorry. I'll make sure my deficiencies never overrun you again.
All right. Yeah. God bless you, my son. But how awesome is that song?
I completely and totally loved it. Like I said, when you played this on, like I said, that one podcast where Jeff was like, nope, not talking about Fallon Fox. I was like, oh, so amazing. Oh, God, somebody's got a call.
No. Hang on. So normally I use my landline to do these podcasts, but I'm using my internal microphone on the computer tonight because I was having some problems with my phone on Sunday, which is why you just heard my phone ringing just now. Let's get back to the podcast, shall we?
Live, everybody.
Yes. Unlike Sheamus and Randy Orton, you have to know when to vamp. Now listen. They brought back that heavy blues sound, which was great. But I mean, even at that, everything just feels like it's building on previous installments. And the DC Sound Attack, like it took what they did in Robot Hive Exodus and Blast Tyrant. What a use of the harmonica, first of all.
Oh, I love that harmonica.
What an underrated instrument, first of all, wouldn't you say? I mean, you don't get enough harmonica in modern rock music, but when it's used and used effectively, it makes the song like 10 times better.
Oh, yeah, like The Wizard by Black Sabbath, one of the best songs ever to have a harmonica in it. Just sets that up so well. Yes, exactly. I mean, this song, I think this song was made by the harmonica. I want you to know, after hearing that song, I walked around my house just whistling. Yes, just whistle it the entire time. I could not get it out of my head. The harmonica is a damn catchy instrument.
I walked around telling people that I had blood in my eyes when I was looking at them.
And they were probably like, what the fuck, who is this psycho?
Well, no, it's people I work with at the jail, so they know exactly what my deal is. I am often told I am exactly the right type of personality to work with the mentally ill.
You and me both. Oh, well, I'm going to be working with children. What's the mentally ill children? What's the difference?
I was going to say, you're working with children who are, in fact, mentally ill, so, you'll be fine.
Oh, God, mentally ill children.
Anyway, totally has a heavy groove to it. Political undertones, but again, Clutch does it in such a way that, to me, it's inoffensive, so I don't even think about it half the time. It's definitely one of those songs where I could hear, I'm a warmonger, baby, but, and all that, and I'm like, fine. I'm sure if Neil Fallon and I sat down and were discussing our options with what to do with North Korea, he would have a different set of ideas than I would. Except that that's not why I'm listening to Clutch. I'm not listening to Clutch for their political theory. I'm listening to Clutch because they make damn fine music. And this was a damn fine song.
Exactly. Like, some artists, like even like the hyper-conservative, hyper-liberal, I'm not a fan of either. But like, Tom Morello, love his shit. Even though, he gets a little too political. Dave Mustaine, he may be a complete and total asshat. Like his music. Even fucking Uncle Ted Nugent. Love his stuff. So he kind of sort of married a 17-year-old. That's not cool, dude. Exactly. I mean, you can look past a ton of shit for a good musician. Like, you really can. Now, rapist, murderous, not. I don't think you can do that. But everything else, yeah. By the way, there's an echo of me. I can hear it.
Okay, I can. This ought to be fun when I listen to this back. And I do listen to these. I check the comments, I listen to them. I'm a big fan of me and what I do.
See, once I listen to something, like, I can't stand hearing my voice played back. So it's really fun when I'm the one having to edit shit. Oh, it's so great. I'm like, like, I get used to it after a while, and I'm like, okay, my voice isn't that bad, but just starting, I'm like, who is that asshole?
Well,
yeah, I should start listening
God
to
bless you,
myself.
Robert. Yeah, I had, when we had Sam Mercati on the, and I love Sam Mercati. I don't have anything negative to say about him. My father listened to the podcast that he was on with Sean and I. We were discussing Batman, and my father goes, "You sounded really, really good and really, really confident. Who was the guy who sounded like he was asleep at the mic?"
He sounded odd. No offense to Sam, it just sounded like he was really tired. You found him at a bad time or something.
Unfortunately, that's how he sounds. He's got this really silky, jazz voice, and he always sounds like he's about 1 minute from taking a nap. And sometimes he is, but that's not necessarily. He doesn't sound tremendously different when he's really excited either.
I thought he sounded a little different than he did with when he works with Lambert, because with him and Lambert, it's like they're like sometimes he does sound like he's asleep, but like a good 3/4 of the time he's all peppy and I hate Joe Rogan and all that other stuff.
Yeah, if you get him going, maybe. But let me say this once more into the breach. Okay, so recently, I follow Clutch on Facebook, and whenever they do a show, they release their set list, and then they, city, the picture of the set list, and then in the description of the set list, they'll tell you what was the encore. Changes every night, and while there are a handful of songs that they play at every show, mostly from Earth Rocker itself, though they seem to be ending every show now with Electric Worry, Vamonos, Vamonos. They've played a lot of the same stuff from Earth Rocker, and then they just alternate other songs from other albums, which is pretty cool. I don't know how other bands do it. Like, I don't know, when Metallica toured the Earth after the Black Album with Danzig and Suicidal Tendencies, I don't know if they played the same set every night, maybe switched it up 1 or 2 songs here or there, or, if it was exactly the same, or if they do like Clutch does. But Clutch never plays the same show twice. And I will tell you this, though, they play Unto the Breach at every show. From what I could tell, I actually did a spreadsheet trying to figure out what they might be playing in Orlando when I see them, because I'm that big of a nerd. And they play nerd. They play Unto the Breach at every single show, and I'm going to tell you this much: Unto the Breach is going to cause chaos. People, that's going to be the Shogun named Marcus of that show. That's going to be the one where people just go running into the mosh pit.
That would be totally awesome. And some bands do have the same, like Megadeth. They always end with Holy Wars. Always. Just for reference. I love Megadeth. Oh, by the way, Megadeth and Iron Maiden are doing a 7-show tour this fall. Hopefully they hit Florida. They're hitting Raleigh. Yes.
Good for you, because nobody tours North Carolina, apparently.
Yeah, well, hey, they're starting in Raleigh, but the problem is it's on a Tuesday.
Oh, well, if you're any kind of a music fan, you'll go anyway.
Well, see, that's my problem. Well, see, I'm a music fan. My parents are not. My mom does not understand my music.
No, Robert Cooper. Let me explain it to you. Listen to your old Pappy Radulich, see? When I was your age, if there was, no matter what the concert was, if it was during the week and I had school or I had work, I went. And there were plenty of times I didn't get home until I had to get up again for work the next day, or I had to get up again for school the next day. And you changed your pants, you brush your teeth, you eat a banana, and you walk out the goddamn door again. You tell your parents, metal, and that's all you need to know, and then you go to that concert, boy.
I probably should. I just need to take her by the shoulder and go, Mother dearest, Iron Maiden. Do you understand that Iron Maiden could go anywhere in the world? Because their singer has a fucking plane. You know, those assholes are in fucking Raleigh. Who goes to Raleigh? Nobody.
Right.
Nobody goes to Raleigh. Yeah, I think I need to explain that.
The only reason why they would be touring Raleigh is apparently they planned to have a flat tire that day.
It's weird. Last year when they played, they went on that huge Back in Time tour, the Made in England. They started in Charlotte. I don't get it. Maybe they just love starting in North Carolina.
Maybe it's an easy airport to get into.
Maybe. But yeah, I mean, I got that. Anthrax is a bust, sadly. But hey, there's a Mayhem Festival. Mayhem Festival. Amon Amarth, Children of Bodom, Chenehead, Mastodon.
Already got my tickets for that. Already got my tickets for Rockstar Mayhem, got my tickets for Clutch, and I just bought tickets to the day before Clutch. I am going to see 3 Inches of Blood and Goat Whore. You bastard. See, I looked because I saw that you were going, so I'm like, oh, dude, I wonder if they're coming in here. No! They skip it. It's like, damn it. Is Clutch coming to North Carolina? Is Clutch coming to North Carolina?
What?
Because if they're coming to North Carolina, you know.
Especially, like, with the sword. I love the sword, too. Let's see.
I'm telling you, when we're done with this podcast, you should check them out on Facebook. See if they're coming to North Carolina. They usually... I mean, if they're coming to Tampa, they're usually playing all over the South.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. That's kind of odd because most bands, they will play the South, but usually they'll hit Florida, Texas, Georgia, Nashville, and then maybe like somewhere in Virginia. If they're coming here, they'll come either Greensboro, Raleigh, or Charlotte. And actually, we got Fozzy in Winston. Fozzy hit Winston-Salem, and I couldn't go. I was so mad.
Fozzy, as in Chris Jericho's band?
Yeah, Chris Jericho himself. Chris Jericho. If you've read his book, if you need to read his book. If you read his book, you'll get that. Great.
So all these songs so far, the first 5 or 6 songs here have all been really, really heavy, fast, fun songs. And then Clutch turns it down, breaks the tempo, and hits you with a straight blues song.
Swan boats and daisy chains. Can't seem to recall my true given name. I see my footprints, how they come, how they go. Was that yesterday or only a moment ago? My heart is gone. I've gone cold. My heart is gone. I've gone cold. The past gives way to a cold winter field. The ground below, hard as steel. Beyond the hill, a distant song, but that hill keeps going on and on. My heart is gone. I've gone cold.
Not quite Johnny Cash, but it's up there. Definitely heard a little Ain't No Grave to Hold Me Down. I've Got No Strings, however that song goes.
Yeah, I really, actually, I love this song. Like, I was listening to, like, the last part of it. I think this was the first song I listened to, because I was watching Breaking Bad with my stepdad. It's, amazing show. You should watch it. And I was like, okay, well, if we're going to watch this episode, I need to finish this album, because I can't do a podcast without listening to the album, because that's not fair. So, this song started, and I'm just like, holy shit, I adore this. It is just so great. It's got so bluesy. It's got so much emotion to it. I just loved it. I didn't see this coming either. Like, out in the cold, I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of sad, but I'm pretty sure they're going to jam through it. No, they gave me something to light my lighter to, damn it.
It's a fitting tribute to some of the blues songs they covered in previous albums. I jokingly said someday we should do a Clutch Retrospective Part 2, the deep cuts. And I was talking about, the songs that didn't make albums, just from their, like, EPs and stuff. But if you look at, like, Robot Hive Exodus, they actually cover a blues song or two on that album. And they do that here and there. Occasionally you pick up a soundtrack or a compilation, and there'll be one of the very, very few Clutch covers. And, they've done Politician by Cream. They said they've done some blues, and this was a fitting tribute to those influences, I thought.
Yeah, this really, like, hit that spot. Like, I know you're not as much into, like, doom and slow stuff as I am. This really just kind of hit that spot that, like, doom just hits for me. Like, that spot deep down, where you just kind of, it's just like the emotion hits you, and it kind of gives you just, like, the strength from it. I love it. It was great. So awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those songs you can kind of dim the lights to. It's also a nice come down song. Again, Earth Rocker is very much about the live experience, and I feel like Gone Cold is a great song to play to bring the crowd down after they've hit them with so many fast and heavy songs. They can say, okay, let's take a step back, and they play Gone Cold, and everybody chills out, and then they hit you with something else, maybe a little something else that sounds like this. And that song is called The Face. Robert, what do you think of that song?
I really dug it. Like, it was a nice thing to come to after that. You know, kind of like that palate cleanser. That was nice little blues romp that we had. I mean, we went from heavy to groovy to heavy again to blues to this, which is just like a really nice return to what we were listening to. It's a little bit of something more than we expect. I won't quite say this is one of my more favorite tracks on him, not that it's bad, but it was still pretty awesome. I dug it. I don't know, maybe it was just the fact that I was still stunned after the past track. I was like, okay, man, that was awesome. And then we get back to going. I'm like, oh shit, better get my pants on. We're allowed to leave.
Yeah, Gone Cold really brings it down, but in a good way. And in The Face, you know, it's not kind of a pie in face sort of transition. It's more of a slower transition as the album picks back up again. You know, albums when they're done well should follow kind of a wave pattern. You know, start here, up, down a little bit, then up again, and then down, and you know, then like for example, Nirvana's Nevermind ends with Something in the Way, which is a very, very slow and eerie song. It begins with Smells Like Teen Spirit, which is a very high-paced, high-energy song, really fun song, and then it kind of goes up and down in the middle. Appetite for Destruction, kind of the same thing. Begins with Welcome to the Jungle, probably one of the most enigmatic opening songs of any album anywhere.
Ever played.
Such a great opening song. They use it in the opening of Lean on Me, and every other thing where they want to show a school in chaos. But then I think it ends, and I don't remember how Appetite for Destruction ends, but it ends on a kind of a slower note.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like, I'm trying to think what's one I can think of. Oh, yeah, the Black Album by Metallica. How damn overrated it is. It's a very overrated album, in my opinion. Still good. But, yeah, it kind of goes, you've got stuff like Inner Sandman, and then it kind of slows down, Nothing Else Matters, all stuff like that, and Wolf and Man, you know, other stuff. And it's like you've got some slower, more somber tracks in the middle of your kind of sort of thrash.
Yeah. I think every album
should
end like you should be able to roll credits over it.
Yeah, I think that is a pretty good way. I mean, sometimes, like the Last Testament album, I love the way that ended. It was just like fucking thrash. I mean, some albums you can't end on a roll credits, but at the same time, I would prefer that if it is in the character of the band, they should do it. Like, you know, Cannibal Corpse. If Cannibal Corpse ends with a cover of Nothing Else Matters, I might just have to go massacre. I might have to go massacre like a few woodland creatures. But you know, like let's say like Metallica. If Metallica ends with something like that, okay, that's cool. Like, what was the last track on Load? Was it Bleeding Me? Yeah, Bleeding Me.
Oh,
yeah, that was
okay.
That was a classic. You know, something like that. Something that's just beautiful, somber. That's nice. It kind of decompresses you, where you can just kind of take in the album and be like, okay, I got it.
You know, I'm gonna quote the great Sean Comer. Never give me any ideas because I'm dumb enough to run with all of them. And now that you've got me on this, you know, Cannibal Corpse shouldn't end a certain way. I want them to end their next album with Blowin' in the Wind.
I want him to end with Dust in the Wind by Kansas.
There we go. I'll take Dust in the Wind. I'll take Blowin' in the Wind. I'll take something from A Mighty Wind. You know, something with wind in it. Wind of Change. Can you imagine?
Dust in the Wind.
No, I wanted to sing it like normal. I just wanted all of a sudden, you know, just this 9 tracks of, and then 1 track of Blowing in the Wind.
Oh God, I'm pretty sure they would get caned for that.
Wasn't there an episode of Metalocalypse where like fans were killing themselves because of something the band did with reference to the music?
I remember there was one where they went acoustic or something.
Right. Yeah, it was something
as much Metalocalypse
like that.
I have not seen as much Metalocalypse as I should, because Adult Swim's kind of like, some of their stuff's kind of shitty.
Oh, wow. Most of it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the next track here. This is Book, Saddle, and Go. Neil Fallon said that if you play from the heart, if you play from the brain and not the heart, then it sounds stale on playback. Do you agree?
What? Sorry.
If you play, Neil Fallon, singer of the band, said in an interview recently that if you play from the brain and not the heart, then it sounds stale on playback. Do you agree?
You know, honestly, I think that's kind of true. Like a lot of some technical, somewhat, just for example, some technical death metal. It feels more, I don't want to say staged. It feels more practice than something that's coming from the heart. Like oh, that's nice, but I don't feel like there's any emotion. There's nothing that really makes me want to come back. I mean, there's some nice stuff there, but it doesn't have that personal feel to it.
Yeah, I think I'm into interesting music, and I like different sounds with music. I think there are some bands that get overwhelmed, obsessed, distracted with bells and whistles in music, and they don't focus on just playing. And maybe that's not fair to some of those bands, but I can tell you that you can feel the emotion in certain music, and it may not be as technical as some others, but it's infinitely better.
Yeah, I think that's honestly sometimes I think that's what also draws me, stoner rock and stuff like that, because it's just I feel like they just came, they wanted to have some fun. I felt that rather than some more technical, more progressive stuff. It just feels, it doesn't feel as fresh. It's just something it ages. I want to say it ages poorly sometimes. Some stuff from the heart, yeah, that can get a little bad. There's some pop songs from the heart that make me kind of want to kill some people, like Taylor Swift. Yeah.
I want to read another quote here. I want to read another quote here from Neil Fallon. This was in an interview he did with Crave Online. The question was, would you say there's a thematic thread connecting the songs? He said, a very loose one, if that. I definitely went into this saying, let's not overthink this record. I wanted to make more of a fun record than, say, Strange Cousins, at least lyrically. If there was any common theme, it was sort of commenting on rock and roll. Not in an overly specific way, but it's our participation in rock and roll. The older I get, the more appreciative I am of that. Robert, what's your reaction to his statement?
I agree with it. Well, I mean, I can't really say much on the getting older thing. Yeah, I'm a whole lot of young goat, but yeah, a lot of stuff stuff is more fun. I feel like it does get more appreciated. Like, I guess because it's one that was like, you know, a smart record, that's fine. But I guess once you get older, you're just like, I've heard it all. I'm tired of everybody trying to one-up each other on, oh, this is just, you know, oh, you know, I made the craziest, most progressive Mike Padney album. You know, sometimes you're like, okay, that's nice, but I've heard that. I don't want to hear you just trying to, like, do something better. I just kind of want to hear what you feel. Play from the heart, damn it. I want something fun. I want to bang my head, and metal help will drive me mad.
All right. Well, here's a fun song. This is called Cyborg Betty. You know, that's a question I've often wanted to ask you on this show. Why you got to run so hot?
Why do I have to run so hot?
Yes.
I don't know.
Cyborg Robert.
What?
I said, why do you have to run so hot, Cyborg Robert?
I don't know. I just feel like some man. I'm 40.
That song was meant for shaking your butt. I hear that, and I'm like, we're back up to kind of where we were at the beginning of the album with the tempo and the beat and everything. But you know, we talked about this. I'm good because that song was meant to shake your butt, shake your peanut. That's what they say on the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, shake your peanut. So you know, when you listen to Cyborg Betty, shake your peanut.
Don't mind if I do. Like, that song, it was a lot of fun. Like, I love how you just segued into it. Like, you know, here's something fun. It's like, no. I'm like, oh, yeah, that is a lot of fun. It's got, like, that nice driving, groovy beat. Just makes you just want to dance around everywhere like a moron. Yeah.
I had two visions in that song. I had kind of a 60s stock hop kind of a feeling, you know, where you and your best girl with your botox on and your poodle skirt, you know, and you're just dancing and having a great time at the malt shop. I had that kind of a feeling, and I also had that Blues Brothers playing behind a fence throwing beer bottles at the band kind of a feeling. Also, and I contribute that more to the tone of the song than anything else. But it just felt like a very, very danceable, fun track.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say you can turn your brain off during it, because sometimes that can be kind of insulting. You just turn your brain off and listen to it. Some bands, you know, as we've already mentioned a gajillion times, Cannibal Corpse. Yeah, there's not much singing in that. It's a nice little horror story. Something like this is something you can send to somebody who doesn't like metal and be like, here you go. Here's some metal right there. Something fun, something they can dance to. It's something kind of relatable. Because I don't want to say it's got like a more of a rock sound than a metal sound. But it kind of has more of a rock sound. I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. I dug it.
Okay. Okay, you dug it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, sorry.
Right. I heard you say I'm gonna say it, and I don't want to say it, and I was waiting for you to say it, and then you said nothing, so I must have missed it.
Well, no. Well, I know. I just said it because I said I don't want to say that it has it's more rock than metal, but I'm going to say it's more rock than metal.
It is more rock than metal. I don't think that's a bad thing. All right,
yeah,
we're almost done.
Yeah, continue.
We're almost done with this album, Earth Rocker. We've got 2 tracks left. This is the second to last track. This is Oh Isabella. Isabella is clutch. As I'm listening to that, that's another one of those examples of a pure clutch sound. If like someone said, well, describe him to me, and I couldn't come up with a good label, I would play Oh Isabella.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty fair. I mean, I'm not nearly as educated or as versed in clutch. I just use the same synonym to basically say, you know, your clutch. But I can definitely say that I agree. That was fun. That had a nice bluesy edge to it. I still kind of wanted to dance, but I didn't because it was cool enough so I didn't have to. It was just fun. I'd say clutch, and like if you were to give them one word to describe clutch, it's fun.
Yeah, especially this album. I would say this is probably their most fun album that they've done in recent memory. Because again, just going back through the post Jam Room era, you've got Blast Tyrant, which certainly was fun, but it was so off the wall at times, and it was when they were first starting to experiment with the blues sound that there was a lot of focus on it. There was also a lot of focus on the thematic elements of the album, starting with the artwork and then going into the music itself. Robot Hive Exodus was so out there. I mean, ribonucleic acid freak out the power of prayer. That's all I'm going to tell you about Robot Exodus. It's really all you need to know. From Beale Street to Oblivion took it back to a more mainstream place, but even still, you know, with songs like Electric Worry and The Devil in Me, you had so much blues in that album. This is going to sound like an insult, but it's not. It's actually a compliment. Up to this point, and I don't really count Strange Cousins from the West in this. That's a whole separate rant. But Last Tyrant, Robot Hive Exodus, and From Beale Street to Oblivion feel like albums where Clutch was really, really trying. They were trying to do different things. They were trying to bring in all these other elements. Clearly, they had a focus on what they were doing, and it shows. But it shows in a good way. You could hear their effort in the music. I don't know what the hell they were doing with Strange Cousins from the West. It feels like an oddly out of place album in the whole Clutch pantheon. It definitely feels like a throwback to the pre-Jam Room era. I feel like it's sound-wise, it's more closely related to Elephant Riders and Pure Rock Fury than anything else. This one, it doesn't feel like they were trying as much, which again sounds like an insult, but it's not, because I think you can also take everything you've done up to this point and go, okay, let's just do more of that, but we're so good that we can do more of that and it still sound new and fresh and interesting. And I think that's where the fun comes from. I feel like with this album, creatively, they let their hair down and they just played for the love of music.
Yeah, which is actually kind of ironic that they're letting their hair down and doing that, considering this is an album that they came in with ideas, with songs, everything's thought, like a lot of things thought out. I think that's kind of neat. But actually, to twist your almost insulting sounding statement into just a complete compliment, it's not that they were not trying, it's just they weren't trying as hard. They were just being soulful. There we go. That's the word. They're being soulful. This really does feel kind of like a soulful album. Not like soulful, not like Adele, nothing like that. Not that type of soulful. Something that just feels like it's from the heart, from the soul. It's a lot of fun. All that. Yeah.
The rhythm got them. And they let the rhythm get them, and it came out in this album.
I thought you said the rhythm got them. I'm like, what? Is it a Batman coming out of this?
No, the rhythm is gonna get you. The rhythm is gonna get you. The rhythm is gonna get you. Ugh, never mind.
Yeah. I recognize that beat, but I think you might have just went over my age range.
I'm 1 million years old.
You're not that old, honestly. So it's funny, like when my column went on hiatus, my mom goes, well, why don't you go tell your little friends that you're not going to be writing for the site? I just laughed. I'm like, Mom, some of these people are almost your age. I mean, she's like almost 50, but still, I'm sure we have some older people on the site. I'm like, it's not like, I'm in high school anymore where people are 15. I'm like, these are grown-ass men.
Your mom is 50, you said? Your mom is 50 years old?
She's almost 50.
Close. She's 49?
Yeah.
I'm 12 years younger than her.
Yeah, I know. I just love when she's like, your little friends. I'm like, they're not little. They're pretty big fellas. Apparently, if you saw that one thread on our secret writers forum, we were like, oh yeah, I'm this tall. Like everybody's like, I'm 6'2". I thought I was a big fella. No, we got a lot of people who are like 6'4". You got Forcina who's like 6'6". Like Christ, I write for the land of the giants.
I am not one of them. No, I'm short. I am a well, you've seen my pictures on Facebook. I am a squat fellow.
Yes.
But I'm Zonka and I think one of the two oldest guys on the site.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we don't.
Like a lot of guys.
I think we have most. Yeah, I think most people are like in their late 20s, early 30s. I think I might be the youngest. I mean, I think Lambert's closer to my age than anyone else. I'm not sure though.
Yeah. But I take pride in being old man of the mountains on 401. I relish it. Because it's funny because Zonka actually referenced that once in a podcast. He was like, I don't know how old Radulich is, but he sounds like he's a million. And I was like, yeah, that's about right. That's what I go for.
You're the old man on the Silver Mountain.
That's right. My wife says she loves her. We're 7 years apart. She says I love my old man. I wanted an old man and I found one. Now, as the irony of that is I stay up later and I like to do more and party more than she does. But that's hardly the issue here. Speaking of hardly the issue, this is the Wolfman kindly requests. It's the final track on Earthrock. Classic. That's great. Odd way to end the album, though, considering the conversation we were having before regarding kind of ending on a slower, lighter, more ethereal song. That's not quite this one. This one we're back to kind of a bluesy, gravelly, snarly kind of a song. But thought it was a fun way to end the album. Your thoughts?
Yeah, honestly, I think this is the other side of the coin rather than what we were talking about, ending on like a somber note. This is almost ending with an exclamation point. This is taking it's almost like the cumulative test at the end of the year with less cramming and dread. This is like, okay, we had some gravel, we had some blues, we had some hard riffs, we had some soft riffs, we had some blues. Okay, here we go, guys. We're going to throw all this in a bucket. We're going to give you 5 minutes of goodness. And this is your cumulative test. Just to make sure that you've got everything from this album, here you go, on a silver platter of goodness.
So that, folks, is the 10th studio album by Earth Rocker. Definitely one of my favorite albums of this year. It's right up there with the new Hatebreed. I know that might sound weird to people, but I'm telling you, I mean, I've listened to a lot of music so far this year, and other than an album that we're reviewing for this podcast, Hatebreed is the only one I listen to over and over and over again. Because goddamn it, #Time to Murder It.
I can attest. I follow his Spotify. He listens to that album like 3 times a week.
Especially while I'm working.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've had an album like that this year yet. I mean, I've got some favorites, but like last year, let's see, Woods of Ypres, Sabaton, Testaments, let's see, like a lot of them, like there's only a few albums. Like I rarely come back to an album multiple times because, you know, there's so much. Like hell, I know you listen to Hypocrisy and Killswitch Engage. I haven't even gotten that far. Yeah, I listened to
I was hanging out with my daughter and we were listening to, you know, again, if people have heard the podcast before, her playroom and my office are the same space. So she'll come in here and play with her tea kettle and her dolls and everything in her little Disney play set. And I'm listening to Hypocrisy, and you know what? We're okay with that in the Radulich house.
You are father of the year, sir. And I'm not being sarcastic. That is just cool.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully somebody doesn't work for DCF and think I'm abusing the child because I'm exposing her to metal. But I digress.
That would be a Philip Taylor Swift.
Oh, poor bastard. All right. This is stuff. I would rate this album. I mean, I want to call it a 10 out of 10. I can't think of anything wrong with it. I don't have any complaints. I mean, we've talked about a couple of albums in the past, and I said, oh, this song I wasn't too wild about. There's not a single song on here that I would like, I could live without this one. Nope. I thought this album was great. And this is another one that I've listened to over and over. I've listened to it while running. I think it's a great album. And I feel like I'm biting my tongue because I feel like to say it's perfect might be a smidge too far. But you know what? I'm going to say it's a perfect album. I have no complaints about it. It's the first 10 out of 10 I can give all year so far in 2013. Maybe that's too much praise I'm heaping on them. Maybe I'm biased because I already love this band. So I'm going to go over to you, Rob, give you some to dampen my little parade here like you did at the top of the podcast with my joke.
I'm the wildcat there.
Why don't you give me your review, your 50-word or less review of Earth Rocker?
Oh, please. We've known each other well enough to where I'm sure you can guess. 50 words or less is an impossibility for me. But to add some levity to this conversation, since I am not a Clutch fanboy, I am a casual Clutch listener at best. I would give this on my personal scale of usually 70s like shit album for me, and I think the highest I've gotten was last year's Rush, which is 94. This would get about an 87 or an 88, which basically means there were some real standout songs, some songs that I loved, some songs that were in my head, and then the rest of the album was good, but I didn't find it to be like ball blasting great. That's not trying to undercut them at all. I just felt like there were some notes on the album that weren't as strong as the strongest songs, which I know is going to sound weird because, you know, strongest songs, that means they're the best. Like some of my favorite albums, they kept that same, like everything sounded like a greatest hit. Not everything here sounded like a greatest hit, but that's just me nitpicking. This album right here, I'll be honest, if I can find it $7 or less, I am going to buy it. Because there's enough for me to come back here and listen. There's a lot of fun notes. There's some stuff I'm sure that I've missed. I absolutely love some of the songs. And the songs that, like, you know, weren't as good, they're still good. They're still very good. They're still fun. And there's something still to listen to. Yeah, so 87, so it's about 4 out of 5 stars. Maybe a little higher. But yeah, 4 out of 5, respectable, pretty good.
B plus.
B plus.
B plus. You give Clutch a B plus. Folks, this will be the last 401 music podcast as Robert and I are no longer. No, I'm just kidding. That's fine. That's a fair review.
Maybe an A minus. I'll give you maybe A minus. I am a very I'm too soft on my grading because I don't like giving things a shitty rating, but I'm also too hard because I don't want to call anything the greatest thing ever until I've got a little perspective of the year.
So you grade it on a curve, is what you're telling me. If nothing else is better than this album could actually be rated higher in your scale.
No, not necessarily. I mean, 87, 88. I usually stick to my scale, but okay, a little short story time. Last year, I'm sure I told you about my heavy metal spreadsheet, where I have every release throughout the year, and I have it graded. Yeah, like last year I got to Elven King's Era, which had a 90. I thought that nothing was going to get higher than that 90. I was wrong. I had other albums come in, beat it. Other ones, not as good. I kind of use albums as like almost like a gateway, kind of like Matt Hamill. You know, it's a gatekeeper. Like if you can beat this album, yeah, it's Matt Hamill. I had to sneak that in there. It's a gateway. Honestly, I think this would be the top of 87. Like 87, low 88, which is phenomenal. Some of my favorite albums from last year, like the ones I mentioned, Woods U Priest, Sabaton, those got 87, which, you know, still pretty good.
Like, does an album that scores 100 with you produce an erection and or something? I don't like. What would
what would
produce 100?
Well, not only I would get an erection, every male in a 25-mile square radius would also get erections.
Okay, so it would have to be some great unifying factor.
Like something that I listen to and I'm like, holy fucking fuck shit balls, holy crap. Any expletive I can think of, this is amazing. Like, I think the album that would come closest to 100 in the past 2-3 years was Anthrax's Worship Music, which I'm sure you're like, yeah, it doesn't have John Bush 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 10. But still, that album blew me away, seeing as I've never been around for like an Anthrax album. That's something I find that is really cool about now, being a music fan now, like Megadeth's new album. A few years ago. Like, that was my first Megadeth album that I was hearing as a fan, like, that's coming hot off the press. There's nothing more exciting to me than being around for a band you love that's coming out with new music. Like, there's bands like Death will never have a new album. I'll never get to experience that happiness, kind of like you are with Clutch. Like, you know, Clutch has a new album, holy shit, I'm going to drop everything I'm doing and listen to this new Clutch album. I don't get that with Death, but with some bands I do. Anthrax, 8-year absence, I got that. I was like, holy shit, I got so excited, listened to it. It was everything I wanted. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah, sorry to ramble on you there, but...
No, you're not rambling. I mean, I do want to close out closer to the 90-minute mark here. But no, I get it. And, I was being a little facetious with the erection comment. But, that's fine. You all have different scales, and I had a feeling that once I asked that question, I was like, well, I kind of know the answer to this. He's going to tell me something that is mind-blowingly different from everything else out there, or something that gives him the same feeling I get when I listen to this album.
I feel like 100. That's like something that I don't feel like I'm going to ever hear, because I don't think I'm ever going to hear an album that I can completely say is the greatest album of all time, because I've not heard every album of all time. I can't say that.
Right.
But I can just, I mean, I should switch to a star scale, 4 out of 5.
Well, I was going to say, not the albums like Nevermind, Dr. Dre's The Chronic, Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses, albums that were redefining of a genre, of an entire era, perfect albums, they don't come along every day. So I think what you're saying is fair. Okay, so that's our podcast for this evening. Thank you for tuning in. I hope we've turned some of you who were skeptical onto the greatest band that nobody's ever heard of, though they still made #1 in the Billboard chart, so I probably have to come up with a new nickname for them. But
it's the greatest band that most people haven't heard of.
Yes. In 2 weeks, we will be back with Robert's pick, which, as it turns out, Robert's pick was my pick. So that worked out well. It is, of course, the new Fintroll album. Name I don't recall. I think it's Bloodsvet. I don't know. Something not me.
Hold on. Give me a quick hot second, and I will tell you. Come on. Work faster, Spotify. Work faster. Bloodsvet.
Yes. All right, so we are going to travel to the land of Hoompa. Yes. Trollish folk metal. Oh, boy. Hobbit rock. We are going to review the new Fintroll and all of its non-Englishness. So that'll be fantastic.
It is the music of Sauron.
Yes. You can find Robert Cooper, if you've enjoyed his soulful wisdom, on Twitter at the Metal Coop. Robert, what else is going on?
Let's see, what do I have going on? Let's see. The Hammer of Doom it'll be back. It'll be back by the end of May, and then I'll be going back weekly because school will be over. Thank heavenly Lord deity Jesus. That'll be there every Sunday, usually every Sunday night, early Monday. That's the Hammer of Doom News Report. I bring you metal releases, all that bullshit. Okay, got that. And this thing that I'm actually quite excited about is me and two buddies of mine are starting a podcast called the Three Beards Podcast. What is it about? Fuck if I know. I mean, basically all it is just us talking for like an hour, just talking about whatever the hell we want. And, you know, you've heard me on here. I'm a fun personality, at least I like to think so. So imagine that, and then two other people who will probably be intoxicated by the time we're finished. We're going to be talking at least the new Evil Dead. I've not seen it, but they've seen it, so they're going to spoil the hell out of it for me, those bastards. So there's that. We also, let's see, any other things. Since I write a podcast, still haven't done episode 2, but we talk all this Tokusatsu, Power Rangers, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, whatever the fuck you want. All that. Do I have any other plugs? Well, not for me, but you should totally check out the MMA Factor Fiction on 411 Mania, because it's going to be exciting. I have no clue who's in the finals because I have done forgotten. I'm sure Mark can tell me.
I want to say it's somebody. Oh, Rella. Rella beat Zonka, and then Sam Mercati, who was the number 1 seed.
I'm getting a rematch.
4-on-1.
I am getting a rematch with Sam.
It's Cotty versus Rella, I believe.
Ooh, that should be interesting. Because I get basically like after Sammer like almost sort of beat my ass. I was like, hey man, it was really nice face me. He's like, oh yeah, I'd love to have a rematch. And we're like, Wyatt, what do you think? He's like, hell yeah, anytime.
All right. A week from this Tuesday, speaking of Sam Mercati, we will conclude the Batman podcast, looking at the Joel Schumacher years, otherwise known as the Yuck years. Folks, I made a couple of cracks about wrestling during this podcast because it is, of course, WrestleMania season. WrestleMania was this past Sunday night, and I did a pair of podcasts with my good friends over at casualheroes.com. Casualheroes.com. Check out their podcast. I did a pre-WrestleMania and a post-WrestleMania. They apparently like having me on their podcast. They like to hear me rant. So I did for them, and that was a lot of fun. I don't get to talk a lot of wrestling because that's kind of Larry's domain for 411. So it was nice to be able to walk over to somebody else's website and have my opinion about wrestling valued. If you want to check out the 411 Ground and Pound Radio Show, that's every Sunday night at 9 o'clock. This Sunday night we will be reviewing the Ultimate Fighter finale, and we will be previewing the UFC on Fox 7 with Dan Cormier and Frank Mir, and of course Ben Henderson unifying the lightweight title with the final Strikeforce lightweight champion Gilbert Melendez. Check out the 411 Fighter of the Month, and I believe that's it for now. Also, The Right Hook is back on FromTheRightRadio.com. So again, if you liked hearing me talk about music and you're wondering what my thoughts on North Korea are, you should go over to From the Right Radio Thursday nights at 9 o'clock and check out The Right Hook. All right, so for the Metal Hammer of Doom, Robert Cooper, I am the mandated reporter, Mr. Mark Radulich, and frankly, I'm mortified, and this has been the 401 Mania Music Zone Album Review Podcast. Thank you, be well, be safe, and behave.